Just to give you a little bit of an idea of what got me here, I've been in sales and marketing my whole life. I owned my first company at the age of 7. I had my own corporation at 16. I went on then to be a health food broker for several years. I represented over 97 products as a health food broker. I then was doing school, and so I did 4 years on my Bachelor of Arts degree, and I got phys ed, biology, psychology, and then I decided I was going to be a teacher like my parents. So I went and got my Bachelor of Education, and I taught high school phys ed and biology for a few years and realized that putting me in a classroom and making sure I can't leave until 4:30 was probably not the best plan for me. So I like to teach and train adults. And then I went into corporate sales, and I worked for a corporation, Fortune 500 company for 8 years. And then I switched to another corporate Fortune 500 company for the next 8 years. And then, at the age of 37, I got pregnant with my first child, and wow, was that shocking. So I was a stay-at-home mom. But I'm not a stay-at-home mom kind of person. I like to build an international business while staying at home with my children. I'm a hockey mom, so we are in an arena, and I feel just at home here today because I'm at an arena 6 days a week. So with rep soccer and rep hockey, that's a little bit about how I got started. But for the last 12 years, I've been in network marketing, and that's what's allowed me to be a stay-at-home mom. It allows me to travel, it allows me to build businesses, I'm teaching and training, so all of my background's coming together to support what I do right now, and I'm excited by that. And I couldn't do any of this without my business partner, Janet Hurley. Janet and I have worked together for almost 12 years now, and I'm just blessed to have her in my life, and I'd like to introduce her as my co-host today, Miss Janet Hurley.
Thank you, and thank you guys for coming. It's a pleasure to see everybody, and coming from such long distances, 2 or 3 hours each way, that's phenomenal. I guarantee it's worth your valuable time. Yes, Temple and I did meet on a cruise in a previous company, and you would think that maybe because there's almost 20 years in our difference that there wouldn't be enough commonalities to become the best of friends, but we have. Even though she's a young mother of a 5 and a 10-year-old, and I'm a 65-year-old nana with 6 grandkids, we have the common grounds that we love health and wellness, we love people, and we love being able to present something to someone that we feel will change their life like it's changed ours. I'm 65 and I'm pretty active. And it amazes me that I feel better now than I did 20 years ago. And I'll just segue back. It's nice to know what kind of backgrounds we have. You can understand what brought us here. In my past life, I've been in the banking industry. I've been in management in a university. I've worked in a private school, and it led me to corporate sales as well in the giftware industry, where I repped for 9 companies for 15 years. And I was in management for 15 years, so I'm a 15-year girl. So I've been in this business for 12, so I laughingly said last night I got 3 years to really help a lot of people. But I believe that everything that I have learned in my life has prepared me for this, because we have the most unique situation on the planet. We are blessed to be working with the seed. We have a product line that is created from seeds, and not just any seeds, and you'll hear more about that from our incredible scientists. But we have a product that the seeds individually add incredible value to the human body, and synergistically together they create an amazing wellness program that will help fortify and help us to have better energy and live our lives to the fullest. And that's why we jump up and down about it, because we want other people to feel this good. And I know there's a lot of you in the room that have great stories already, and you'll hear some of them later. But without further ado, we want to introduce the incredible lady that you have come long distances to here, and we're so proud and privileged that we're with a world-class company that attracts world-class people. And in my brief time knowing this amazing lady, I feel I love her. I was meant to know her. She inspires me, and I am so grateful that the amazing Dr. Christina Rahm is aligned with Rain International. I can be here to tell you some stories that are going to blow your mind and make you realize that this is worth your valuable time and you're in the right place at the right time. And so, Christina, I'd love for you to take the stage and share your beautiful wisdom. She's smart and she's gorgeous.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight. So I have been so blessed to be in Canada already. I've been here many times before for pharmaceutical and biotech companies that I worked for, presenting to doctors and societies. And also at some of the international spine and brain and total joint conferences, as well as oncology, immunology, dermatology. So I've been to many of your cities and I've really loved it, but this has been my favorite trip already. The people last night, the people last night were just amazing. I actually was just sending some emails to one of the societies I'm a part of, as well as to Rain and to some other scientists, because I've met some amazing individuals last night. And I am just so blessed, and I mean this, to be able to work with Temple and with Janet. I love meeting people. I say this all the time, it's the energy in life that connects all of us. And we all have a story to tell, and we have a mission. It's whether we decide to share it and what we decide to do. There's not an ability in life not to make a decision. You make one way or another. You choose what's going to happen. You don't choose, when you don't choose to do anything, or you don't choose to share, then that's your choice, right? And that takes you on a different path. And just to give you a little bit about myself, I always think people know me because I've spoken in about, the last 2 years, about 44 countries, and some of those countries multiple times a year. Before that, if you asked me how many companies total I've spoken at or in or been to for work, probably close to 100. I haven't counted. I want to count and go back. But when I was young, I really liked that. Now I still love it, but I do, I do always miss now the people that I've developed friendships with, and I feel like I've already developed friendships in Canada. I don't feel like I know. So I've been blessed to meet some people with amazing energy, and I'm so thankful. And my life is forever impacted by that, right? It's a difference. I can't go back to who I was before I met people I've met here. It changes you forever. It does. If you're born into a family, the minute you're born, you have that family. Hopefully they love you as the best they can, because right, none of us are perfect. But then also as you take a journey in life, I really believe this, you have the opportunity, if you didn't come from something or if your life went really bad, you have the opportunity to meet people that if you'll open yourself to them, they can, and you make the right choices, they can really impact your life in a positive way. And that's what's already happened when I've been in Canada. So to go back about me, my journey on this life, you both have had incredible journeys, and a lot of you that I've had the opportunity to get to know at other meetings also have incredible journeys, as I'm sure each one of you do. My journey, just because I want to give you a little bit of background, I was raised in a very small town called Dexter, Missouri. It's a farming town, and I was raised in a town that I had parents and grandparents that were educators, and they were also farmers. They loved us a lot, but we played outside, as little kids all the time in the farm. I worked on the farm. I got up at 5 o'clock every morning, so I still get up at 5 o'clock every morning. And we worked, and our word was our word, and it was a great town. But in that town, we found out later, there were a lot of toxins in the environment, in the land, and the air, and the water. And there were pesticide planes that flew over our farms every day and dumped pesticides, and I would be out on the farm working, and it would be so hot because I was raised in a town that was very, very hot. And I would feel it on my skin, and I would play, we would laugh because it felt good. It was hot, right? Especially when we'd be picking strawberries or soybeans or whatever we were picking that day. And my parents and my grandparents believed that there was no way the workers were going to work in the field, and we weren't. That was the rule. If someone's cleaning our house, you're cleaning. If someone's working in the field, you're working. You're never gonna do something or ask someone to do something that you're not doing, which was a really great way to be raised and the way I think everyone should be raised. So we would play with everyone out there. We would have fun. The workers, you know, got sick. We got sick. My family got sick. We also had tobacco farms, and you guys know tobacco plants are carcinogenic. I loved hanging the tobacco leaves and watching them dry in the woods and in our sheds, and they were toxic. So almost everyone in my family has been impacted by cancer, including me. When I was 24 years old, I had got pregnant, and I was working on my PhD. I already had a master's in science. I had an undergraduate degree in psychology, political science, and I actually had a career where I thought I was going to do either art, or I also got accepted by the FBI in our country, and a couple of other organizations, and I applied to law school, then I ended up being a graduate assistant and teaching at a very young age at university, and going the route that I'm on. Got a master's in science, and then working on my PhD, I get pregnant, very unexpected. I was married, but it was unexpected, and I got cancer. What happened was there were twins, and one of the twins developed, instead of into a baby, into cancer cells. Thank goodness they were not identical twins, so I had an opportunity to save one of the children. However, if I saved one of the children that was alive, because the other child was no longer a child, it was a tumor, I had to choose, because the cancer would metastasize throughout my body during the pregnancy. So as soon as I delivered, I would have cancer, and I actually had cancer during the pregnancy. So against all the doctors, I chose to carry the child, and against my family. It's hard. Now I understand my mother. My mother did not want me carrying a child that she thought was going to kill me, and I had a 1% chance of that child being alive. That child is 22 years old right now. He is at the university getting ready to start his graduate degree. He plays rugby. He's a very strong leader, and I always tell people I think he fought a battle inside of me, so by the time he was born, he was already an adult, and I'm not joking. That's really Duquesne's life. And the word Duquesne means a beautiful leader. That's my oldest son. As soon as he was born, I was very sick. I was sick during the entire pregnancy. I was in and out of the hospital. I had a brain tumor, prolactinoma. I had a syringomyelia around where the tumor was in the spinal cord, and it was wrapped. It's very rare. It's not outside or wrapped around, it's inside. So to get to that, you can imagine if you're gonna do surgery, you're probably gonna be paralyzed, right, or die. And they really didn't know at that time I had a spinal tumor. They found that out later, but they didn't know something was wrong, and they knew about the brain tumor. And then I also had melanoma, squamous cell, and basal cell throughout my body. And I had tumors around the cervix. And so that was, at age 24, a little bit hard to deal with. And I remember thinking I didn't fully understand this was gonna happen. And so here I have a family that's had a lot of cancer, and I have cancer, and I had lost a child that I never knew, and I didn't really suffer from that because I had a healthy child that was born. He made it, he survived. And he did have some issues that he overcame, but I started looking and questioning and wondering why everyone in my family had cancer, and why was I sick, and what was I going to do about it. And actually my life changed dramatically. Before that, I worked really hard, but I also had kind of a not an easy life, but I was homecoming queen and president of my sorority and president of student government in college, and very active and had a large group of friends, and things were easy. When that happened, I became very humble. I was humbled by life, and I thankfully was raised by a mother that taught me to be that way anyway, but it really didn't hit me until that happened, that this is my one chance. So what am I gonna do? Am I going to dress up and go to parties all day, and have fun and laugh and go out and dance, which I love all those things too, or am I going to use the mind that God gave me, that now I have a tumor, but I have the opportunity to learn, and I decided to finish my PhD in psychology and neurology, and to start focusing on research. And I actually worked for NIH, and supervised about 17 psychologists and worked in the ER, so I really threw myself into work and into research and learning. And I then went on to I get a second PhD in strategic science, and I also have a postdoc and a master's in nanobiotechnology, which is a focus really in quantum physics and in bioscience engineering, and at the Medical School of Bioscience Engineering postdoc program at Harvard. And the only reason I'm telling you that is a lot of times people will say, how did you do all this, Christina? Well, God put me, or my life put me in a position where things happened to me and my family that I knew I needed to do something. And God humbled me at a young age, so I knew that every single person that I would meet in my life, there was a reason and there was an opportunity to help them just like they would help me. Right? If I help you, you're helping me, and that's really how it works. And so I threw myself into learning really about the human body, and I have had the opportunity and the privilege to be able to work with diseases and with viruses that are tragic so that I can learn how to help people. I worked on retroviruses for HIV at Bristol Myers Squibb. I worked at Pfizer, Biogen, IDEC, Alexion, biotech pharmaceutical companies where I worked with rare diseases. I was a principal investigator, and when I did that, I stayed in school because those organizations and corporations love you staying in school because then you help them. I worked on cloning and molecules to help cure diseases. Through that path, I learned that when we were treating patients that were sick with rare types of cancer or multiple sclerosis or Crohn's disease, I could tell you a lot of diseases that I've worked on because they would bring me in to review everything and work on it. Then I saw that something was happening. When I would go in, we would work with these patients that they had no other hope but what we were developing in trials. And all of a sudden I would go in to treat the patient with the doctor because I was the research scientist working on the drug, helping the doctor learn the drug so they could treat the patient, and it would be gone. And I would say, what do you mean it's gone? The answer I would get basically was not to ask that question. But then what I did was I did ask that question, and I kept finding that people that got better were surrounded by things that were positive in their life. Positive nutrition, positive supplements, positive people, holistic things like chiropractic care, acupuncture, biofeedback, different things that were impacting them that no one understood and no one thought could cure a disease, right? Because who spends the money to study diseases? Pharmaceutical biotech companies that are going to make $800,000 a person per molecule is who spends that money. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like someone asked me yesterday, do you regret or feel guilty about your history making drugs? No. I feel bad that sometimes that whole story cannot be communicated to the public, but those drugs save people's lives. To get a drug approved by your government and the government that I'm under in the United States, you have to have, if it's a rare disease, usually about a 40% efficacy rate, which is about equal to placebo. However, chemotherapy and biotech and drugs do cure people and they do help people. So I'm not saying that 40% is a wrong number. I am saying though that there are a lot of nutraceutical products and other things that you have in your lives that will prevent and supplement the body and also help treat your body effectively when you are sick that you've got to pay attention to. See, we all are here and then we will go home tonight. And I said this yesterday. People will spend money to pay for a lease or a mortgage on a house or buy a house, but this is your house. You take this everywhere. I will be in the next 4 weeks, I will be between airports and flying and going in and out. I will be at probably 8 or 9 countries. I am not going to my house. I'm staying in a hotel. What am I taking with me here? So people spend money on their lease and their house, and they look into everything about it before they buy it because they don't want to buy a house where there's a problem, right? But people don't want to spend money and time learning their body that they will live with the rest of their life. They can't get rid of it. This is what you have. So what I really want to get across to people is you've got to learn about your body, and then you've got to take appropriate measures to supplement your body and to provide nutrition so that your body can have the best life it can be. So the house you're in is as beautiful as it can be. And I tell my kids this all the time. Some of my kids are skinny, some of my kids are not. Some of my kids have dark hair, some have blonde hair. I'm saying this because everyone is beautiful. This is your house. You get to do what you want with it. You can't think that someone else has a better life or a better house, because it's simply not true. You get this opportunity to share your story and to be part of it. So there's not a coincidence that I have a PhD in psychology or a master's in rehabilitation and counseling and neurology. It's because I think this was the journey that God gave me that I accepted, and instead of laying down in bed and saying, I'm not gonna get up, I feel sorry for myself, which I've had days where I do that too. I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna fail probably today. But I'm going to do the best I can do to make this life a great life for myself and for other people. And I'm gonna share it, which takes courage. We all live in fear. I live in fear. My biggest fear is flying on a plane. I have anxiety. I've tried everything. I can't take a drug. I can't take, if you ask me to soul and core, get rid of it, I wish I could tell you yes. It makes it better. I feel better. But it doesn't completely get it. It's one of my biggest fears. But I still get up, and as you guys know, I get on a plane. Sometimes I'm on a plane for 26 hours. So I just do it. And the reason I'm saying this is the biggest message I want to come across to you guys today is to encourage you to learn today about some products that really do support your bodies. And they really do provide nutrients. I don't have a lot of time to waste in life, in my opinion. When that happened to me when I was 24, my biggest thing I thought, and I still think every day, is I've got a lot to do today. And if I die tomorrow, which I might, I learned to accept that. I might. Then let me hope that I left as much knowledge on this earth before I leave. So for me to get up and lie to you all, or to spend the time leaving my children and my friends, I mean, I have new friends here now, but leaving these, it's not worth it. There's lots of jobs with my education that I can do, just like there's lots of things you guys can do. So this is a choice for me, because I believe people need to be educated on seeds, because see, seeds, when I said that I worked on pharmaceutical and I worked on stem cell products, a lot of our products, which are called human monoclonal antibodies, which we use for cloning, and we use to develop cures that will go in and fix viruses and diseases. We also use with viruses, but usually we also use what are called retroviruses. But going back to that, when you have a monoclonal antibody, it's usually human DNA, and you mix it with murine, which is mouse, because mice have the closest DNA to us, which is, I know, blows you probably away, because it blows me away still when I think about it. It humbles me again. You know, it's great. And I literally, because I'm a scientist, this is going to sound, and I've done a lot of animal studies. A mouse, just to give you guys a little insight about me, a little bit, one more thing. I was in the bathroom the other day, and a mouse, my son put the mouse trap out because we had mice, and a mouse got stuck in the mouse trap, and I just started crying. I was so upset, because I was like, oh my gosh, this mouse is gonna die, and I'm here. I was like, I wanted to save it. So I got my son, I go, well, I need to help this mouse. And he goes, you can't, because Mom, we've got to get rid of the mice. And I said, I know, but it has the closest DNA to us. And he goes, I don't know what that means. He's 14. I said, it just, so I am telling you that because we would make it a murine. So it was a targeted cell that we would inject through an infusion or a shot to go into people's bodies to cure rare diseases. Those products cost a lot of money, but what we also mixed with those products a lot of times was seed DNA or stem cells, or plant DNA and stem cells. And your seed actually is your most potent part of the plant. So when you get a seed, it has more vitamins and minerals and antioxidants than the entire plant usually. So I worked with seeds, but no one ever educated people on seeds. And when companies who pay for all this research because they have so much money, right? They have investors, they're publicly traded, they have lots of flashy cars, they paid me tons of money. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there was another side of the story. What if people in governments and societies and healthcare could focus on wellness and prevention, and then people didn't get so sick, or they had the best quality of life while they were here and they felt better? I can't fix governments and societies. I work with our FDA. I worked with Dr. Green, who's our medical director with Medicaid and Medicare and CMS. I can't fix an entire system that's been here forever, right? What I can do, though, is stand in front of people and work at companies where I can educate people really and empower them of what they can do to have options in their life that include traditional medicine, but also include empowering them about their health. Because I have a question for you. When you go to a doctor, who cares more about you or the doctor? Because he's got his house, and then he's got his wife's house, and his kid's house, and his parents' house, right? And you have to be empowered and educated about yourself, and then feel confident about sharing that to other people and sharing that with other people. And I find people sharing, me talking about it, but I want to empower you guys so that you come away from this with the information about seeds and some basic facts that will help you, and about nutrition and wellness. So let's talk about seeds, and let's talk about the products. Rahm is a phenomenal company. I had zero plans, if I'm honest, about working at Rahm. I thought I would come in, I was working on a detox formula. They were interested in a detox formula, and I was also looking for something that once you detox a cell and clean it out, it would supplement it with the healthiest ingredients. See, I'm a huge detox specialist. I understand that if you have cancer or autoimmune disease, you've got to detox that cell so it's clean, so that the inflammatory cascade does not keep going. You need to clean out your body. You need to cleanse the body. And so I also knew that, in my opinion, for my body, I needed to continuously detox. People ask me all the time, how often do you detox? Well, for my body, I continuously detox. I take Epsom salt and Dead Sea salt baths. I use cayenne pepper and lemon and oregano and all kinds of different oils and different things to continuously detox my body. I take magnesium. I could go on and on, because I want to make sure that I live here as long as I can so I can raise my children. My eldest is 22, my youngest is 13. I would like to be here as long as I can so that I can share time with them as well as the other people in my life. If I died today, I'd be happy, but I don't want to die today. So this is what I do for my body. But I knew that I was having a problem because my immune system, because I've had so many different types of cancer, and kept fighting me. And so I'm detoxing and I'm doing okay. The cancer's not coming back, but I'm not feeling great. So I go in and I meet with Rahm, and they had two products that were their core products at the time. One was a product called Soul that had black cumin seed and black cumin seed oil, and it had black raspberry, and it had white Chardonnay grape, and it had D-ribose, which is a carrier. And it was manufactured in a way that I asked, can I see the manufacturer? I ended up at that manufacturing plant when I went in there, meeting them, and the manufacturer works for a lot of MLM companies and produces a lot of products that are great products. Not just Rahm's products, but a lot of great products. And so I ended up consulting with him and helping him with some different formulations. But I ended up learning about these products and where they source the seeds, which are confidential. We do tell people some of the answers to that, but not all of the answers, because we secured at Rahm, even during the last year, a lot of sourcing for our seeds. So I try to go around the subject. I'm not a good liar. As you guys can see, I don't like to lie. To me, it's a waste of time. But I signed NDAs. I can't tell all the information I know. And yeah.
It's proprietary knowledge.
It's proprietary knowledge. So we did apply for patents. We had provisional patents, but we sourced things from the right places, because where you make the seeds are very important. I had this discussion earlier, and that's why I know I was one of these big people, proponents of or things that were organic. Huge thing for me. Think about it. I had cancer. I wanted to make sure I knew that I had been exposed to pesticides, and so had my family. And because of where I lived, almost everyone in my family has had cancer. So I knew I needed to detox to get rid of the cancer, right? But I also knew I had to supplement the body, and I needed the right sources. Rain's products, they have sourced from the very best places throughout the world, not just one place. And then they've done things that have gone a step further. They've sourced things in the United States where they knew they could control the environment, because that's where the actual lab of manufacturing is. So they would always have these seeds available. If you make something in an organic place, depending on what part of the world, and even in the United States, it doesn't always mean that product is good. I would love to tell you that it is, but that's not always the case. And I'll use an example. I was on a trip in Asia. I used to say the country, and I shouldn't do that. I'm not going to say which country I was in. It was a wonderful country, wonderful people. I went out to eat that night, and it was out on a pier, and there were huts along the way, and there was trash all in the water. And we were going to have the best meal supposedly that was available. I knew when we were going out there that I could tell that people were using the bathroom. I thought they were using the bathroom in the water, because there was always the holes in the ground, and that's how you use the bathroom in this country. And that was the case. We had fish and shrimp and all kinds of things that night. It was really hard for me. I knew, I actually asked to go to the bathroom as soon as I sat down. And they kept telling me it was an organic place to buy the food. And that's a good example, and that sounds like you hear that and you think, oh my goodness, that fish came out of a sewage, right? But what people don't tell you is that a lot of times, they're trying to regulate it more, but when you have organic, you don't always know where the fertilizer came from, if it had GMOs in it. GMOs cause a lot of cancer, we know that, right? And the United States is a country that's really been known for using those heavily. Why? You make more money. Products at first, when you use a GMO, can taste better, look better, but the problem is they're genetically modified. So after a while, it breaks down. It's like cloning. When we clone things as scientists, at first they're fine, and then guess what? It breaks down. So, and we've gotten better at that as scientists, but I will tell you that the seeds that they produce are from a step further than something that's organic. It's from an area, and it's from environments where it's not GMO modified, and the seeds aren't, which is really, really important. So we source these seeds at Rahm. I started learning about the company. They asked me to do a talk. We were developing a skincare line. So I spoke for the company for the first time in Las Vegas, and there was a lot of people there. I don't know if was there anyone in the room at that meeting in Las Vegas when I first spoke? I don't think so. Were you? You may have been. I don't think there was. So I'd never spoken, I always spoke in a large environment to doctors. There's probably 3,000 or 4,000 people. I'm not sure how many people were actually there. I was overwhelmed because I was not used to sharing my story, and I didn't either that day. And it's taken me a while to be able to communicate in a way where I can help more people, because I was used to using big terms and big words that we need to use when we're talking to doctors, because that's how doctors communicate and talk. We have almost our own language, especially as an nanobiotechnologist. So I got on stage, I talked about it, and I liked the product, but it was very hard. It was such a different environment for me. And then I started using the products, and I started learning more about the products. Went and learned more at manufacturing, and I realized these are the best products that I have ever seen. People have asked, I think you asked me, Christina, do you take vitamins? And I don't know what the right answer to that is, but my answer was no. I don't take vitamins. I take corn, I take soul, and I eat healthy. I don't eat perfect, but I have the foundation of soul and core to go along with it. I use Form. We have changed the ingredients of Form a little bit since I was first at the company, and I actually was at the company during a time we were making a change, and now we made a second change. We have not changed the formula of soul or core, and I don't believe that we will. We have added other seed-based products. So we have added a product called Bend that I worked with. And when you see these products, I want you guys to know, here's what I do as a scientist. I write the best formula in the best way I know to manufacture it so that it preserves all the ingredients and it activates them, and I use catalysts so when it goes into the body, it works the best, because a vitamin C is not just a vitamin C. How many of you guys have ever used vitamin E on your skin? How many of you guys have ever used Retin-A? That's what Retin-A is, right? We just did it a different way. I worked on that product. So you can create products and work with them in a way so they are energetically working the best with the body, and that's what I like to do. Rahm has the first product, which is Soul, which again had the black raspberry, the white Chardonnay grape, the black cumin seed, and the D-ribose, all sourced from the best places in the world, all very expensive, just so you guys know. Then it uses a cold press method and a CO2, CO3 method to manufacture it so that it preserves everything. And it uses a catalyst so that when it goes into the skin, it can go through, in the body, sorry, it can go throughout the body. So, I started using that product. I started learning about it, and that product is phenomenal. And then I studied, of course, you have University of Maryland, where University of Maryland actually was the first to use this product. They used it with cancer patients. They used it with children with chemotherapy and radiation that could not thrive. They weren't thriving. So some doctors came up there with the formula. One of the doctors was out of Johns Hopkins, one was out of University of Maryland, and they started using it with the patients. Then a company picked it up because they had a child that was there, and it's a long story, and since then the leadership has changed, but it's still the same product. They kept the sourcing, and when the manufacturer that had first produced it started really getting involved with the company, this actual manufacturer started loving these products more than anything and really became invested in keeping this formula alive. A lot of owners will change a formula to make more money. That has not happened with this company. And so this product made a huge difference for me. I started feeling better. At first I didn't notice. I thought I'm not really feeling anything, and I kept hearing these case studies and this information they wanted to look at, and I'm telling you, as a researcher and a scientist, it is hard to convince me. I've been exposed to so many things, I question everything. I don't sleep much, I'm always questioning and trying to figure stuff out. But I looked at the testing, and I actually sent the product out for further testing. We used Brunswick, which is one of the top labs in the United States and in the world that does third-party assay testing. And we found that with this cell-based test, we were able to look at the cellular mechanism, anti-inflammatory, anti-aging, and antioxidants, looking at what was going on in the cell when you expose them to this product. And I'm very used to doing things like that because that's one of the things I do in a lab. So I got the results back. So here I am thinking, I'm not really feeling anything any better. But then after a couple of months, I started noticing I think I had more energy, and I think I actually look better. I actually looked at a picture of me before the product and then after the product, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I'm looking different. And I've always used a lot of things on my skin, because if you think about what I do, this is my house, my body. I'm 50 years old. When I try a product or I make it, I try it on myself. I try it on my skin. I've worked with skin, was one of the first areas I worked in. It's your largest organ. So I, of course, as a female, loved working with skin, and I've done a lot of different products when it pertains to that are also primary, secondary products for diseases that are also in the body. So when I started with this Soul, I'm taking it, but I'm noticing I actually look different. But then I started realizing I'm feeling different, and I'm not really getting sick. And then every year, I always get pneumonia. The last 2 years, I have not had pneumonia. I get sick, but my body fights it off. And when I get sick, so when I get bronchitis or I start getting sick, I take extra Soul and I take extra Core. So here I am taking Soul, and then we get the results back from the testing and get more results back. And we see that in the cellular testing and in the trials, we actually are seeing a 33% reduction of cellular inflammation, which that makes sense. Okay, we're reducing inflammation, which means my body is not creating the inflammatory cascade, which causes the epigenetic, which causes me to get sick. See, once you have cancer, it's there. It's like saying someone came to your door and knocked on the door and you never met them. They knocked on the door, they're no longer a stranger. You know this person. And so if you see them again, you, in your mind, think, oh my gosh, I remember that person, and you're more apt to walk up to them. What people don't realize about your body is, first of all, I told you guys it's a house, but it's also its own city, and every city is different. New York is different than Chicago. Chicago is different than Dexter, Missouri, where I live. Dexter is different than Toronto. And in your city, all the cells talk. The cells in your body are like people in a city, and they have cell phones where they're communicating. So if one cell in the body is exposed to cancer, the cells around it, if that cell is talking, and that cell says, I need you to look like me, and it rubs off on you, energy rubs off on energy. What you choose to be around makes you who you are. So if you have a sick cell that has cancer, those other cells actually get cancer because they're talking, unless the cells around that cancer cell are so strong and so protected that they say, you know what, I'm not going to change. That's why when you guys have children, you teach them to not give in to peer pressure. If you can teach your kid to be strong, they resist it. So what you're doing for your body when you're giving them a product like Sol that stops inflammation is you're cutting the bad cell out so the good cells won't listen. They don't want to communicate with that bad cell. They say, you know what, this isn't for me. And then they say, you better leave because you're not wanted here. That's why it's so important for you all to understand what's going on in your body and to really get it and believe it. You know, I have the opportunity to look under a microscope all the time and to look at cells and see what they do. I watch the cancer cells multiply. I see when they don't. I see what causes the changes. But I want to tell you guys, all you have to know is that's what's happening in your body. So when you take a packet of something like Sol that has the black cumin seed that's known throughout history and in numerous societies and countries to combat cancer, and red raspberry and black raspberry and different things like white chardonnay or kale or spirulina, you're giving your cells, the people in your body, right, you're giving them the strength to resist something bad. So that's what we found when we looked at it with the black cumin seed. We also saw a 62% increase in the stimulation of the anti-aging properties. Again, here I am thinking, wait a minute, I think I look better. I'm like most women, I never think I look good, but you know, there's days I think I look better than the other days. So I still don't like looking at pictures, but I mean, I thought, I think my skin's looking better. And actually, before I even heard people talking about putting Sol on their skin, I was doing it. Because I knew if I'm taking it and it's good, it's like an oil, right? Then I'm gonna feel better, and I'm gonna look better if I put it on my skin's my largest organ. So I'm also using Sol on my skin at that point. We got the results back that showed the stimulation of the anti-aging properties. There's not anyone I know that can't be a huge statement to. Doctors, people, I don't care, 62% reduction. That means your cells are not just fighting inflammation, they're not just fighting bad things, they're fighting the whole process of what's called necrosis, is which all of our cells basically gradually die, right? So they're fighting that at a 62% chance. So that means, and this is, you know, me, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I'm thinking that means, of course I know the results, that means 62%, if I'm taking this every day, I'm fighting anti-aging, I'm doing anti-aging, and I'm also in the process making my cells healthier and fighting inflammation.
Does that mean also that your healing abilities will be faster?
Yeah. Because you're stimulating the cells, you're providing oxygen to the cells, you're cutting off the bad communication, but you're increasing the good communication, and you're making your cells thrive. So that is exactly what you do when you take Sol. Now this is not my opinion, This is a fact that came from the lab. So people always ask me, Christina, do you have research? We have this, and we also have things that we're doing that I'll talk about later, but this is our first step, because I didn't want to just see what we saw with people. I wanted to see what we saw in the lab and so did the companies. So we did another third-party assay, and we looked at the CAT, which is a cellular antioxidant assay, and we looked at fluorescence probes. We do the same thing when we look at a MRI. How many of you guys have ever had an ultrasound or MRI? That's what they're doing. We do the same thing in the lab. We look at the assays, we look at the fluorescent lights, we look at what's going on, and we actually get to view that cell. Only it's a lot more accurate, because with human beings, we don't have as much of an ability to look at everything like we do in a lab. So we were able to see the cells and how they pertain to the oxygen and the radicals and how they would permeate the cell membrane. And just to look at the overall what you see, we were able to look at how it would stabilize the cells and the molecules and protect against the radicals and reduce things that were going on in the cell by about 2.5 times what would happen if you weren't on this product. And I gotta tell you, when we got the report and we had the discussions, when they looked at everything, they said, we don't think we've ever seen anything that we have record of that we were able to measure that would preserve the effect of the cell and do this to the cell like this product. It was an amazing product. And so that's why I stayed at Rahm. That's the longest summary I've ever given anyone. I usually just say, yeah, I love the products and I love the people. I'm sure Byron, no one's ever really heard, really, from my mind, that was something like, why isn't everyone using this? And then I saw that we had all these people in all these other countries using it, but not as much in the United States and Canada. North America was not on fire, yet you had Eastern Europe and Europe, and you had Latin America, all these other countries were using the heck out of it, and we weren't. And I found out the reason for that was because the people that started this company had started in other countries that were in the Middle East, or Eastern Europe and Asia. So I wanted people to know this, and I wanted them to know that this was a non-GMO formula, and I wanted to explain to people why, and that is why I'm here today. And that's why these products are so important.
To add, is there another Dr. Susan, I forget her last name, where she was dealing with what she felt was, in her knowledge, having Lyme disease and the anti-inflammatory, or not antimicrobial or something about, is it with salt or with core that she took, that she was able to have more energy?
It's both. It depends on, just so you know, so I've had Lyme disease when I was 19.
Ooh.
I ended up with meningitis, and I always wonder if that was another reason I got cancer at such a young age. But I'm glad you brought that point up. Black cumin seed is known to work with Lyme disease. I can also tell you one of the strongest factors that work with Lyme disease is turmeric, which we have in Bend. Also spirulina in other countries, and milk thistle are used for Lyme disease and hepatitis. So these seeds that we're using